right, folks. I am really excited today to have an author and a thought leader on transitions and navigating the chapters of life. And George, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce your last name because I'll probably get it wrong. But George, your last name, how do you pronounce it?
Jerjian.
Jerjian. Okay,
Jerjian.
good. I would have botched that. But
That's
George Jerjian, uh, your newest book is Odyssey of an Elder. But before we dive in to the books and the courses and all the resources that you offer our community members, let's get to know you a little bit better, George. Tell me a little bit about your life journey and what led you to being an author and thought leader in this space of reinventing ourselves.
well, Steve, thank you for having me, and I'm delighted to be on your show. And thank you for your audience. And I just to answer your question, I think what kickstarted my journey down this path was in 2007 when I was diagnosed with a bone tumor and given 6 months to live. And the oncologist at the time said to me that in 98% of cases, bone tumors are secondary cancer, which means it's likely to spread across my body. And it's really a question of 6 months or so of life. And so for 3 weeks, I was dangling under the sword of Damocles that my life, that's it. This is all there is. And, I'll share a sort of a personal moment. I thought I'd be shit scared if I heard the word death around me. But what surprised me was that I wasn't afraid of death. What I was afraid of was I had two teenage daughters and I wasn't going to be around for them. And, it's really quite bizarre. In that moment, that was my worry. As the days passed, I'd look outside my window across the river at the sunrise and I'd think, how many of these am I going to see? These are the things that we never think about as we race through life, competing,
Mhm.
trying to earn money, trying to do better. And there's nothing wrong with any of that, right? We all do it. I've done it. But that one moment makes you think, if I had known that my time was finite, that of course we all know that, but we don't because I think we lie to ourselves, right? We're so focused on what we're doing. This is more important now. But I didn't know these things at the time. And so that's what led me to realize that time is the most important thing. So the first thing I did was unretired. I mean, sorry, I retired. I semi-retired because I realized that time was the most important thing. And so, sorry, Steve, do you want to ask a question here, or
Oh no,
do you want
no.
me to go?
I'm just
Yeah.
I'm really
Oh,
I'm
right,
digging everything you're saying. I'm just like
right.
getting excited. Yeah.
Okay. So I semi-retired, and after 18 months of doing everything I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it, how I wanted to do it, I got bored. I got listless. I got resentful that I'm waiting for other people all the time. Instead of taking the initiative, doing things I wanted to do, I thought that was all over. So I was cascading down this sort of abyss. And I got it, things got so bad that I decided to do something really quite revolutionary for me. I went on a 30-day silent retreat in 2016, 9 years after this medical event. 9 years of semi-retirement. I'm a slow learner, you can see, right? And I went on a 30-day silent retreat to cut out all the outside noise, all the
Now what
influences.
what is a silent retreat? I've never heard anybody refer to it that way.
Right. There are quite a few, but the two that come to mind are there's obviously the Buddhists have 30-day silent retreats or 10-day silent retreats or whatever you choose. And then the Catholics have what's called the Ignatian silent retreat, which is the founder of the Jesuits, Saint Ignatius, created this 30-day silent retreat for people to go through these spiritual exercises. So you cut yourself off from the world, you go into this secluded place with 10, 20, 30 other people who go on this 30-day regime of spiritual workout, if you like. Now, people come from all denominations come to this, right? You don't have to be Catholic. And for 30 days, there's no newspapers, there's no TV, there's no books, nothing. There's just the Bible and you're going through these specific exercises to test yourself. One of the exercises I'll share with you is an audit on your past life, on the life you've led to date. And one of the ways, there are many, I chose to go back and look at the homes and houses I lived in as I was growing up, all the way to now. And I had to look for the good things that happened to me there and the things that weren't so great. And I'm a writer, so I write everything down. And then I had lots of time to go over it again. And what I realized, it seems obvious now, but I didn't know at the time, was that none of the good things could have happened to me without the preceding bad things. And we're so grateful when good things happen to us, but we're not so grateful when bad things happen to us. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, and that's why the title of my book, I took 12 stories. There were others, but I took the 12 main stories from what I elicited in that silence to write a book called Spirit of Gratitude, Crises Are Opportunities. And fast forward, it was really a preamble or a landing spot or a takeoff spot for retirement, right? Because in retirement, everybody thinks that it's a crisis, which it is in the true sense of the word, because a crisis, the definition of a crisis is a turning point. But we've changed it to mean something much more different.
More like it's a problem. It
Oh my
needs to
God.
be
Oh my God, it's a
stopped.
crisis.
Yeah.
Get me
Yeah.
out of here. Right. But it's not. It
It's
means
a fork in the road.
it's a fork in the road.
Yeah.
Exactly. But in our culture, we no longer have a transitional space. As adolescents, you can take a gap year. And you go around the world or whatever you do, and you learn about different people, but you also learn about yourself. Mm-hmm. So when you come back into the adult world, you are ready for that transformation. Mm-hmm. Well, we don't have that in retirement. And again, one of the things on the back of that is I discovered was that because we don't have a transition, therein lies the problem. Mm-hmm. Because we think it's just the continuation of the life we had before, but just quieter. Yeah. What we don't realize is that who we were, our identity, was intricately connected with the work we did. And so whether you were a CEO or a janitor, your identity is tied to your work. When you lose that work, your identity is compromised. And if your identity is compromised, it's a downhill slope. And that's why it's so imperative that you put all those certificates away, all those cups that you've won away. That person you knew is gone. Just like your college years, once you start work, college years are over. Who you were is a different person. And mm-hmm. It's the same in retirement. But here's the problem. Nobody tells us what we're supposed to do. How do you get a new identity? Right? Yeah. I had to do all the hard work to find out for myself. And it was hard because you've got nobody to lean on. Mm-hmm. And so leaning on finding out, people don't even know that you can change your identity for a start, right? Mm-hmm. I am who I am. If they like me, they like me. If they don't like me, they can take they can take the high road. But the reality is our personalities are not written in stone. Yeah. I'm not the same person I was before my diagnosis. I'm a very different person.
Hmm.
And what it is that I then aspired to find out what my higher self would want to be. Remember, now that you're facing death, once you face death, you suddenly realize, okay, what's going on here? Who am I? What am I going to do with this next stage of my life? And it's taken a lot for me to realize that the best is yet to come.
Yeah.
Our
I,
culture doesn't teach us that.
Yeah, and you know, when you were talking about our identity tied to our work, which I think we all recognize that, and some more than others. You know, there's some folks that are out there that just absolutely hated their job, and it's
Yeah.
like, you know, can't wait to stop working, and I'm gonna do X, you know, which might be nothing, you know, and then, but the other thing that I never put two and two together with is also the home that we live in. Many of our community members are, their identity is very much tied to the physical home that they're living in, and the idea of leaving that home or moving. Not, I'm not talking about moving to an old folks home or senior living
Yeah.
community. I'm just simply talking about leaving that home where their identity is. And I think it's you've really got me thinking a little bit differently about I love how you sort of shared this, the revelation from this silent retreat in who is this person outside of all that competition and clutter.
Talking about clutter, I had to declutter my home, right? Um, I was married with two adult children, two adult ladies, women, and they've gone off and they're doing their own things. But we're a very very closely knit family. So even though I'm divorced, it was an amicable divorce, and we're still together. But the divorce kind of had to happen because the relationship was there, but our mindset was trapped in the what I call the shrink wrap of the marriage. 40 years of marriage is not a joke.
Hmm.
All right. And 40 years of marriage isn't something you can ditch.
Hmm.
But, and I heard this from a Jewish guy who's thrice divorced from the same woman and thrice married to her. And it's because they realized, right? Now, we don't have this. I don't have this in my religion, my faith. Divorce is a bad word for obvious reasons. But there is actually the positive end of it is that um, you're able to disentangle the relationship, um, uh, the love of the relationship from the structure of the relationship. For the reasons we said, we get so tied up to the material goods in the and the surrounding of where we live, we're trapped in our own prison.
Hmm.
That's what I'm talking about. And you don't realize what a prison that is. So, we got rid of all the good stuff we auctioned off. The rest of the stuff that couldn't be auctioned off, we gave away to charity. We decluttered our lives. Okay. These are really quite hard things to do.
Oh no.
They're very emotionally draining initially, but then you come out feeling a lot lighter and
Hmm.
you're ready for the next stage. The next stage is not going to come to you. You need to walk towards it, then it will come to you.
Now, what I like is that you have found new purpose in helping people discover what you've discovered.
Yes.
And in addition to your three books, The Spirit of Gratitude, Dare to Discover Your Purpose, and the new one, Odyssey of an Elder, you also have courses um, on your website, New Beginnings for Retirees, a taster course, and this is free. But
Yes.
tell us a little bit about whether I'm reading your books or signing up for any of the courses that you
Yeah.
offer. What are some of the the things that you offer to folks. Sorry, I'm you know.
No. If I've understood you correctly, I think I have. Um, is the first one, the taster course, is something that I know when people want to buy something, they kind of like, should I? I want to, but I'm not sure I'm going to get. So I decided to offer, it used to be a $29 course, the taster course, but I decided to make it free because it's 1 hour and it's got three exercises and you get in video, audio, and PDF, allowing you to receive the information whichever way you want. But it's to give you a taster of what you're likely to be getting as you go into this course. And so the first, that's the taster course. The second one is a pre-recorded digital course, right? 8 weeks. And it's got 8 exercises, one for each week. And the reason I split it weekly is so that you have time to do the exercises and go over them. This isn't something that's going to happen overnight, right? It's a process. And the next course is the same course, exactly as the pre-recorded, except that you get me for 90 minutes. The pre-recorded one is a 20-minute video, audio, and PDF where I do a presentation, and the rest is for you to do the exercises on your own. But there's a video to show you how the exercises work, what its purpose is, and what it's trying to get you to do. And on the 8th week, you collate all the eight exercises, and you end up with a one-page document. If you like, that's the blueprint, your blueprint
Mm-hmm.
for the next chapter of your life. It's a working document. It's not written in stone. Now, the live one is 90 minutes each week, where I do a presentation for 20 minutes or half an hour, and then
Mm-hmm.
it's open Q&A to go through the exercises together.
Yep, I love
That's
it.
the difference.
Now everything kind of you've created this acronym, or it's called the
Yes.
DARE method, and I can see here on your website, it's which I'll add a link in below this recording. There are 4 steps in the DARE method: discover, assimilate, rewire, and expand. You want to kind of walk through these four
Sure.
steps and give us a taste of, or it could even be thought provoking for all of us to think about these 4 areas.
Certainly. Um, uh, so, Steve, dare, the word dare is another word for courage. That's kind of like the preamble. And it's another word for courage. And why is courage so important? Because it takes courage to unretire and have a new beginning. It's so much easier to drift into oblivion. And I'm reminded in one of the Disney movies, those two moths were attracted to the light, to the fire. And one said to the other, "Don't go too close, you'll burn." And the other went, "I can't help it." And she went, "Zzz," gone. That's what retirement is, unless you change course. And I mean this most sincerely because even the best retirement, even if you're financially in the top 1%, you have no idea that this is not about the money.
Hmm.
This is about not your financial planning. This is about your life planning.
Hmm.
And no one teaches us this. I had to go all the way back to Cicero in the Roman Republic when he talked about old age. He wrote a book on old age, and he one of the things he came up with was that old age is the crown of life. It's the best part of our lives, and for him to
Yeah.
say that, you know, you've got to take it. There's wisdom in what they're saying, but in our utilitarian society and culture that we work in, when you get old, you're obsolete.
Hmm.
The dung heap awaits you. Rubbish.
Yeah.
This is the best part. Now, what you believe, no one will argue with you. If you believe it's over for you, no one can convince you otherwise. No one
Hmm.
can help you. But if you decide that life is worth living, and the only way to do that is when you realize how short life is actually, and you realize that we're not guaranteed another day. None of us are.
Mm-hmm.
The minute you recognize the value of life, right? And service is the highest, the noblest thing, right? This is why I went into this,
Mm-hmm.
because when you're helping other people, you forget about your own troubles.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that's the beauty. It's not about, oh, I'm altruistic and I'm helping people. No, I'm helping myself. I'm helping myself because by serving, okay, this is why when I went on my Odyssey, I went to Japan. I wanted to understand about the samurai. Now, because we know the samurai are obsolete now, technically, but they're so infused into the Japanese culture of service that it wakes you up to understand why the Japanese are so brilliant at serving. Even their etiquette and their customs, okay? Now, they might be pieces of work, but the fact that they are serving,
Mm-hmm.
they are in a good place.
I love it.
So, anyway, I digress. Coming back, DARE is also an acronym for discover, assimilate, rewire, and expand. In a nutshell, discover is about what retirement is and what it is not. Now, I've done studies on this. I've read just about every possible book I could get my hands on to understand the history of retirement and how we ended up here.
Mm-hmm.
So I give you a synopsis of that. So once you understand that, you can't unknow it. A is for assimilate. The A in DARE is for assimilate. Assimilate new information about our minds. Now, I always used to think willpower was the most important thing. If I had the willpower to do something, I can do it. Turns out that's why most of my New Year's resolutions didn't work or didn't last long. Why? Because our subconscious mind will sabotage whatever your willpower can do. So the only way around it is to rewire. What we think is unimportant, and we think our thoughts are us. We are not our thoughts. We are the observer of our thoughts. It's like clouds coming and going. We decide to seize on the cloud and say, this is mine. Bit like Gollum, the ring. Ah, it's mine. It's not our thoughts. If thoughts don't resonate with you or they're not good for you, release them. And so assimilate new information about the mind is about understanding the subconscious mind and how it actually operates our system without us even knowing. And that's really, really important because people think they're thinking, they're not, they're emoting. They're just, it's short circuit information, which we show you how it works and why, what you can do to change it. And the way to change it is to rewire, which is the R of DARE. And rewire is the stories we tell ourselves or the stories that we've been told and we have incorporated it as our own, whether it's childhood, family, or school, or education, or whatever, social customs. And none of these are sacrosanct. These can all be broken down, and you don't need to break them down. You just record over them like the old cassette players. You record over them, rewire them. And E is for expand. One of the things in expansion, right, which is actually counterintuitive, because in retirement, it's about getting smaller. The sandbox gets smaller and smaller and smaller, right? Because the money tap spigot has been closed off. So now we're spending less, we're cutting on this, cutting on that. Our lives are getting smaller. We've got another 20, 25 years or 30 years to go for some of us. Granted, of course, any one of us may not make it till the end of the day. But statistically, most of us are going to make it into old age. And if we're not fighting fit, we're goners. So
Mm-hmm.
unless you make your life worthwhile, worth your while, not other people's, yeah, worth your while, you're not going to be mentally engaged or socially engaged. So that's where this comes in. And one of the final points on the E is about gratitude. And I don't mean it from the spiritual or religious end, but from the scientific point of view. Gratitude is hugely important because thinking and thanking are connected. If you're grateful for what you have, for what you already have, It opens you up to receive more. But we live in a society where advertising for the last 70 years has drip fed dissatisfaction so that you buy more,
Hmm.
right? Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't buy, but I'm saying how many pens do you need? How many cars do you need? How many houses do you need? And each time, if you're not happy, any further increase is not going to make you happier. It's a state of mind. So that's the DARE method.
I love it. I mean, just in describing it, I'm it's helping me rewire the conversations that I've had in my own mind about my own future, but the many conversations that I've had with folks that are at that crossroads that, I think we're all calling a crisis, and recognizing that it's really more of a choice, that you have more choices at this life transition than you realized. Um, this is
I
this
would
is
add
a
even more to that is that I think what people don't realize, and it's not about, I'm no Tony Robbins. It's not about copying me. It's about finding what it is that you desire, right? So fast forward to your deathbed. What haven't you done that you always wanted to do? Go back to your childhood. Sometimes another way of looking at it is, what are you most afraid of?
Mhm.
Oh my God, that is so powerful. If you sit with yourself and write down this question, what am I most afraid of? And each answer you give, make it a different one. By the
Wow.
third or fourth, your subconscious mind will surrender and tell you.
Wow. I love that as a practice.
Absolutely.
Man.
It won't work for everybody because some
No,
people are
no, but
fearless,
I
but I'm talking
yeah.
about, yeah,
Now, I want before we wrap up, I want to talk about your most recent book, Odyssey of an Elder. And when you talk about a journey, this I believe is somewhat of a personal narrative of an adventure that you embarked on and the lessons that you learned. Tell us a little bit about how that came about and what you did.
sure. Yeah, this is the most fun part. Thanks for asking. Um, when I was a kid, I read Jules Verne's book Around the World in 80 Days. Fell in love with the story, fell in love with the travel, and I've always been a travel bug. I've always loved traveling and finding out how other people live. And the opportunity came because whilst I've been teaching this for the last 7 years, what I discovered was I've been recommending clients to take a gap year, and I don't mean a whole 12 months.
Hmm.
Take 2, 3 months, go somewhere new, spend time there, with or without your partner. Everybody's in a different position. And it opens you up to understanding yourself in a new way. But I hadn't done that myself. So I felt that I had to walk my talk. And when I sat down to look, what is it I want to do? Right? I know what I want to do. I'm doing it. But if I was to have the opportunity to do it in a different way, how would I do it? And I thought, well, I've always wanted to go around the world in 80 days. And I was 69 at the time. And I thought, well, I always think I can do it in the future. I may not be able to travel. So I thought, if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. And so I took this huge risk. What was a huge risk for me was, well, also, I'd sold out of my investments in the US. I was in a property investment for 35 years with my brother in New Jersey, and with my age and everything else, we sold just before COVID, the pandemic, which was a great timing, very fortunate. And the IRS sat. I overpaid, being a non-US resident. I overpaid my taxes because that's the way it works. And the IRS sat on the money for 3.5 years, not refunding me the money.
Hmm.
Ultimately, 3.5 years later, the money turned up with 8% interest.
Hmm.
So a friend of mine said to me, because I said, the universe works in mysterious ways. I suddenly got the money to travel around the world in a lump sum. Wait for this. And my friend said to me, no, 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 George, it wasn't the universe. The IRS funded you. I loved it. I love that. The IRS funded my journey. So off I it took me about 6 months to plan this because I realized I couldn't do it myself. So I had to find um, a travel agency that would custom tailor a trip because 80 days around the world may sound a long time, and it is, but it's not a long time to visit a country and, you know, look at it deeply. So I had to choose countries, and I thought I'll choose countries I've never been to before, something new. So I chose 5 countries: South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and Canada.
Wow.
Fairly, conservative choice. I didn't want to go to Yemen. I didn't want to meet the Houthis. I didn't want to go to anywhere where there's, Ukraine, Russia. I didn't want any wartime places. So I chose reasonably safe places, but I also wanted something exotic, and I chose Japan. Long story short, it was also an opportunity for me to see, could I live in South Africa? Could I live in Australia and New Zealand and Canada, 3 English-speaking countries, right? I didn't go to the States because I'd been to the States hundreds of times. I pretty much covered most states, not all, but most. And so that was out. I cheated a bit because I've been to Toronto before, but I hadn't seen anything else of Canada. But other
Hmm.
than that, those were the 5 countries. And I stayed 2 weeks in each, except Japan, where I stayed 3 weeks. And I chose, and this was the advice from the travel agency, was they gave me country experts. So I was able to eliminate all the things I didn't want to do and then focused on the ones I really wanted to do. One was I wanted a 5 day full time luxury safari, a memorable thing which I will remember even as I enter Alzheimer's at some point. That's the kind of story I wanted in my life, and which was
Hmm.
amazing. I also wanted to see Nelson Mandela's jail because I'd read his book, and this isn't about politics. This is about an individual's journey.
Hmm.
How the hell did this man land in jail for 27 years and come out a better man in the
Hmm.
sense that he didn't hate his captors? He didn't resent, he wasn't full of anger and resentment that his life had been wasted. How did he pivot and change that? Mindset. That's what it is, pure and simple. Forgiveness. When you forgive, you're not forgiving your enemy, you're forgiving yourself because you're
Hmm.
letting go of these debts and the anger. So I understand that. In Japan, in Australia, I wanted to see the Great Barrier Reef with my own eyes before
Hmm.
I part this planet. In New Zealand, I flew over the Southern Alps. I went to Milford Sound, where, the mountains, the rivers, the lakes, they're so gorgeous. I wanted my eyes to gorge on that natural beauty, right?
Hmm.
Um, in Japan, I met with a samurai for a full half day, a historian. I learned about the samurai, what their ethos is, and this guy, his family goes back 600 years to the origin, to the first shogun. And it was just fascinating learning about the concept of service and the nobility of service, something we've lost in our years of the consumer era, that, the last 70 years of consumerism. And can you imagine if this concept of nobility of service comes back?
Hmm.
Particularly for us boomers, where, instead of what's in it for me, it's, how can I serve?
Now,
How will that change your life unimaginably?
out of curiosity, like, was this a solo journey or did you have a companion?
It was a solo journey.
Had you ever had you ever done anything like that, like traveled on your own?
No, I've been married for 40 years, 2 girls. No chance, no chance of that happening.
So I'm curious, like, can you uh I don't want to call it a punchline, but can you synthesize sort of uh, this sounds fascinating, and I'm actually, I it's been decades since I read Jules Verne's novel, and now I'm intrigued. I've because my New Year's resolution is to read at least a book a month, and I may add that to my list. But what are some of the takeaways from this that we
from this
can,
travel, from this journey.
yeah, and the book too, Odyssey.
Wow. I actually have probably three come to mind immediately. One is about how adversity is actually so good for us. It's good for our soul. It's good for our entire, physical, mental, and spiritual, on all dimensions. Challenge is invigorating. When we're surrounded in a comfortable home with everything that we've accumulated that we can't part with, we're in prison.
Hmm.
We're in total prison. And it's very hard to let go of that because it's a prison of our own making and we hold the key. Nobody can get us out of here. We're the only ones who can get the key in that door and get out. And it takes courage. So, what did I learn? I learned that the adversity of, for example, Nelson Mandela's journey, how can you, when you retire and you go through some problems, you're going to get challenges for a year or two, and then you're on the up. There's no down. If you just tiptoe to oblivion in retirement, it's over. You're disengaged mentally and socially, loneliness, despair, and it's over. If you reinvent yourself, you have a new opening now. Is it easy? No. But if it was easy, everybody would do it. But if you
Hmm.
do it, you open yourself up to new opportunities. And what I learned on this journey was that challenges are hugely important. Again, in Japan, I went to Hiroshima, a city that was incinerated. I'd read John Hersey's book when I was studying journalism at NYU, which gave me but I went to Hiroshima to find and discover how did these people resurrect themselves from that incineration? And it was, it's back. It's the 11th largest city in Japan. It's thriving. There's no radioactivity. And there's some great stories, but we don't have time for this. But it was about a mindset change. How do you change mindset? How do you help yourself overcome adversity? Recognizing that it's not going to last forever and you're going to overcome it and better days are ahead. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I experienced lots of moments of awe. When, and we know from uh, Keltner's book, Awe, that awe has an impact on our, I think it's endorphins, and it creates something in our, I think what it is, I think I'm struggling to actually get the words out. What it does is it opens our minds and hearts to the majesty of what life is. Instead of being cooped up in our little home, in our little world, it opens us up to new possibilities. And that's what awe does. So I had lots of moments of awe, whether it was on safari, in nature with the animals, with the beauty and brutality of nature. It was amazing in Australia's Barrier Reef, Great Barrier Reef, or the Great Ocean Road. Also in New Zealand on the South Island over the Southern Alps and the beautiful lakes and rivers, gushing rivers that they have. In Japan again, water everywhere. There's, and the waterways are on the sides of the roads. Now, in the West, people will be throwing rubbish in there, but the Japanese hold these waters as sacred, and so nobody touches it. Everything is, and then in Canada, the Rocky Mountains and the majesty of those mountains, interminable mountains, if I may say so. I drove for 3.5 hours from Jasper in Alberta to Lake Louise, and those mountains. 3.5 hours, and I was looking through the coach at these mountains, couldn't get my eyes off them. The forests, the lakes. It felt like 15 minutes. So, long story short, it was about mindset, it was about awe, and it was about nature and the expansion. I came back having broken through a lot of fear barriers. And I'm going to share one with you very quickly. In my 40 years or 50 years of air travel, I have never sat in a middle seat, ever. But I had a worldwide, I had a round the world ticket. I didn't even know there was one. Round the world ticket, which took me from all the main places like London to Cape Town, Cape Town to Sydney, Sydney to Auckland, Auckland to Tokyo, Tokyo to Vancouver, and so on. The long flights, London to Cape Town, 12 hours. Johannesburg to Sydney, 12 hours. Then there was another 12 hours from, I think it was Tokyo to Vancouver. I was in the middle seat because I
Hmm.
was on economy. And I had to go zen on the flight to be able to go through that mentally and not suffer. So I had to say to myself, I'm so privileged to be on this flight. You have to fantasize that you're actually in a good place and you have two wonderful people on your side. And why would you be upset about that? So you go zen. And
Hmm.
the 12-hour flight goes quite quickly when you're in that state. Back to you, Steve. Sorry. I
Man,
can't talk
this
for
is
hours.
great. I'm telling you, I could listen to you for hours because I'm gaining so many insights and ideas. I definitely want to have you back on because we could go down so many of these rabbit holes that you've talked about today. But for today's discussion, um, is there anything that we haven't chatted about that you'd like to mention? I will definitely put all of the links and contact information for your website, your courses, your books. But anything that we didn't touch on today that you'd like to share with our community?
Yeah, I mean, I have one traditional one that I use, but today I feel like using a different one since we talked about death. And I went to school in a Benedictine school, and the Benedictine monks, who've their order has been around over 1,500 years. Apparently, the monks are taught from the get-go to always have death top of mind.
Hmm.
Now we would think that's macabre. Why would you
Hmm.
think of, why would you put death top of mind? But it dawned on me after my initiation, after my rendezvous with death, it occurred to me, oh my God, that's, that's how to live each day to the full. Because when you recognize that your life can be snuffed out in a nanosecond, you make each day count, even if it's the most boring day. You will make it count. You will be kind to people and thereby be kind to yourself. You will do all the things that you would not naturally do or naturally behave. So, just something to take away.
I love it. Man, okay. Well, I'm really excited to introduce you to our community. Like I said, I'll put all your links together, and I'm definitely gonna make a date on your calendar to do some more follow-up discussions because you truly are a thought leader in this space. So, um,
Thank you,
I
Steve. I've this has been fun for me too. I've enjoyed it. Thank you so
all right.
much.
Okay, thanks so much. All right.